Elder Dragons of Magic the Gathering are some of the most powerful and feared creatures in the game. From unique card designs, mechanics, and a depth of lore, it's no wonder that Elder Dragons have become such a fan favorite. Hey guys, I'm Simon here for the Ether Hub, and I want to bring to you a video essay on Elder Dragons and the great conflict known as the Elder Dragon War, the event which brought this amazing creature type to heel. We'll discuss the war itself, its origins, its fallout, the losers, and the ultimate winner, as well as how the survivors met their ultimate fates in the MTG lore. Remember, if you're enjoying this content, to show your support by leaving this video a like, subscribing, and of course ticking that notification bell and sharing the video with your friends. Now, let's get back to the lore. Before we discuss the Elder Dragon War itself, we need to go back and discuss the origins of the Elder Dragons, and that all begins with the Dragon. Commander players will rejoice at the sight of this dragon avatar, as it stands to represent the very essence of dragonkind. It's not so much a god, but rather a construct of the multiverse, a living embodiment of dragonness. Back in pre-revisionist history, the Dragon soared through the blind eternities, over every plane dropping egg stones like meteors with each beat of its massive wings. It was said all dragons were spawned from the Dragon, no matter the plane. They somehow related back to these original egg stones. However, in the new revisionist canon, which permeates the story today, we learn that the Dragon is specifically placed on the plane of Dominaria, so its eggs only dropped on this plane. From those eggs hatched the first dragons, who would be known as the Elder Dragons. This means in the canon, Elder Dragons is a specific race of hyper-powerful dragons that only exist on Dominaria. But before the war begins, we must learn of the major players that would take part in this epic conflict. One of the first dragons to hatch from the Dragon was the Elder Dragon, Arcades Sabbath. To Elder Dragons, what makes them unique from others of their species besides pure power levels is their tendency to grant their own names rather than having an outside force name them. Arcades Sabbath was the first of his kind to do this, to grant his own name. Despite being the first, Arcades was uninterested in his siblings hatching around him. With fresh eyes, he turned to distant architecture piercing the horizon, completely transfixed by them. There, he found a primitive human settlement. Finding comfort among these lesser minds, Arcades set up shop and decided that this would be a great pet project. That is, building up a human civilization steep in the concepts of law and order, ideals he brought to the people of Dominaria himself. These people in turn worshipped Arcades as their Dragon Lord. Chromium was next to name himself, and like his brother Arcades, was more interested in the nature of Dominaria than his siblings. He flew off to explore this world he was born to, learning its fundamental laws and forces that govern it. Considering himself more a passive observer than a dragon who interrupts the balance of things, it was this drive to learn more that prompted Chromium to learn a type of shape-shifting magic, taking the form of various humans so that he could walk and learn among them. Next came a second wave of egg stones, birthed in the wing beats of the Dragon. This could be considered the second generation of Elder Dragons, those born after the more aloof Chromium and Arcades. The Victus Asmadi was born in this second wave, a large aggressive specimen that's described as a rampaging monster. The Victus quickly grouped around his kin and other lesser dragons, forming a gang or pack that he quickly took control of. They rampaged the land and established a territory that became their hunting grounds, which they defended viciously. They would on the regular clash with human clans within this area, and many of Vivictus' siblings and offsprings would be killed as a result, building his animosity towards humans. In a similar vein, Polania Moors was born very aggressive, forgoing bonds with hatchmates and immediately going out on the hunt. She believes in strength over all else and displays her dominance whenever she can. She's very much the solo artist, hunting and surviving on her own, but would still bump in and discuss matters with other Elder Dragons who she at least respected. And finally, that takes us to the final players in the upcoming Elder Dragon War, the twin brothers, Nicol and Ugin. These two were unique because no other dragon had hatched with another before. Rather than naming themselves, each named the other, sharing a spirit and a bond that other elder dragons would never understand. Because they hatched together as twins, the two were much smaller than their kin, something larger dragons like Palladium Moors often mocked them for. Still, there were benefits to their relationship, working and hunting in tandem as a team and learning together. But upon their birth, they would experience an event that would change the course of their development. They watched as their newly hatched sister, Marivia Sal, was attacked and killed by a human hunting party and their hounds. Ugin and Nicol were far too small to fight the experienced humans there and then. Despite Nicol's fury, Ugin urged caution and they escaped. However, witnessing this murder would put Nicol down a very dark and dangerous path. One that would lead directly to the Elder Dragon War. Now that we have a better idea of the major players involved in the Elder Dragon War, these 5 Elder Dragon legends, let's learn about the events that led up to this bloody conflict. And just a quick note here, guys, but this time in Dominaria's past, this world was covered by what we would describe as Elder Dragons, just that these 5 are the main focus of this war's lore. Each of these dragons had some connection to all the other Elder Dragons, and some even had entire broods form around them. So this wasn't just a squabble between these 5 siblings, but rather an internal civil war that devastated the entire species. It was just simply spearheaded by these 5 particularly powerful and influential individuals. None other than Nicol Bolas laid the seeds of the Elder Dragon War itself, as his insecurities about his size and dominance began to really shape his personality. This diverged from his twin Ugin, who continually sought understanding and knowledge, unlocking far distant secrets rather than dominating others. These two ideologies would further expand as Nicol and Ugin stayed with their sibling Arcady Sabbath, within his human society of law and order. From this fostering experience, the twin dragons learned completely different lessons. Ugin discovered that vast unknown, the curiosity that came with personal growth, while Nicol, who started to add Bolas at the end of his name to sort of rename himself, learned just how easily humans could be manipulated and used to meet his own ends. After training and learning, the twins finally sought revenge for their slain sister, launching an impressive attack on the human clan responsible for Marivia's death. Ugin was no saint, though he respected life far more than Nicol Bolas did. He too was eager to mete out justice, though Nicol Bolas was the more merciless of the two. They swept through the camps, but over the years these humans had also evolved, becoming more competent dragon hunters. Ugin was injured and poisoned in this attack, as Nicol Bolas put his lessons to better use. He began to manipulate the various tribes that made up this clan, splitting them into factions. This was not an immediate action, but quickly, divisions between this human clan began to form, and as Ugin recovered, total civil war broke out for this clan, of course, spearheaded by none other than Nicol Bolas. He then took power from this clan's previous human leaders, becoming a new Dragon Lord on Dominaria. It wasn't enough to kill off this group in the name of justice. Nicol Bolas had to subjugate them, rule them, to show that he too could be dominant. Ugin, having a true sense of justice, saw the difference between how his twin ruled and how Arcades had ruled. In Bolas' society, there was only tyranny. Ugin spoke out against this, only to discover that Nicol Bolas had also used the mystique of Ugin to further his campaign of cruelty, threatening to unleash this monstrous twin should the humans ever grow a spine. To Ugin, this was an awakening experience. He realized that the one he used to call brother, his twin, didn't actually care about him. He was just another pawn in his various schemes for power. This revelation was enough emotional distress to trigger Ugin's Planeswalker Spark, the first Elder Dragon known to also be a Planeswalker. Ugin disappeared, sparing him from the Elder Dragon War to come, but it was his absence that pushed this race closer to oblivion. These were just the earliest days of the conflict. Tempers were brewing and lines had been drawn for thousands of years. Now Bolas had his own territory and army, and Dominaria became a tinderbox, just waiting for a spark. And the only cool head, Ugin, who could possibly talk sense into Bolas, had just departed. The stage was set for war. Now, just a quick side note, a little distinction between Elder Dragon pre-revisionist history and revisionist history, that being that Planeswalkers previously having the ability to summon powerful monsters to fight for them in duels, and this included elder dragons. We see this in a few of the older Armada comic series, Dak and Blackblade and Elder Dragons for example, where we get a lot of this older lore on the elder dragons themselves from. Even though Planeswalkers don't really do this anymore, it's fun to note that the reason Ugin and later Bolas were never summoned was basically because they were already technically Planeswalkers with a latent spark that just hadn't ignited yet, meaning that they couldn't be summoned by other Planeswalkers. A fun little lore tip there. With borders forming throughout the dragon kingdoms of Dominaria, disputes were sure to begin. The first of which was started by Vivictus Asmadi, the aggressive group hunter of the Elder Dragons, whose pack intruded on Bolas' territory, killing his enslaved minions. In this first clash of the Elder Dragon War, Vivictus, along with 3 other Elder Dragon siblings, Rubra, Ravus, and Levidius, and 4 or more offspring, attacked Bolas' army without mercy. Despite Rubra falling to a poison arrow, they managed to utterly wreck their opposition, forcing Bolas to retreat further into his territory. Bolas would get some tactical advantage from this as he ordered his sorcerers to bind another sibling of Vivictus, Ravus, killing the Elder Dragon. Bolas himself drew a personal blow by mind-controlling Vivictus' final sibling, Levidius, turning them against Vivictus and giving Bolas and his armies enough time to escape. Thus, the first battle of the Elder Dragon War concluded with 2 sides clearly drawn, but with no decisive victor. The war would expand to the rest of the original 5 Elder Dragons of Dominaria as each sought to expand their power and dominance on the plane. Bolas, being physically the weakest, returned to his tricks by manipulating their sibling, the utterly nuts Palladiumors. She's certainly the most unhinged of the Elder Dragons, so it wasn't too difficult for Bolas to sway her fragile mind. Bolas' manipulations didn't stop there. Though he was the first victim of the Elder Dragon War, he was not the first aggressor, giving him a fog of culpability. But as other cousin clans of dragons smelled the blood of power up for grabs, a feeding frenzy began. Through epic clashes of tooth and claw, magic and might, the Elder Dragon race waged this bloody civil war which saw ancient flesh rain down across Dominaria. Among the strongest Elder Dragons, Chromium and Arcades wanted to teach and harbor the humans. Palladia and Vivictus wanted to rip the world apart and feast, and Bolas sat quietly back in his small territory, unopposing, waiting, watching from safety, confident that his plans would bear him as the ultimate ruler and the God Emperor of Dominaria. As the human clans began to thin through their sacrifice to the dragons and generations passed all during this 1,000-year conflict, the frontrunners started to become clear. Palladia and Vivictus had lost whatever human support they had while their broods were devastated and exhausted. They slinked off, no longer a threat to Bolas' plans. Chromium too was not an acting force in this conflict, resigning to his role of observer, shapeshifting into a human and hiding for the vast majority of the fighting. The final bastion standing between Bolas and his ultimate goal, control over Dominaria, was the powerful Arcades Sabbath, who, throughout the war, refused to engage and stayed sheltered behind his high walls, protecting his people. Bolas again turned to his unique brand of trickery, manipulating the thoughts of Arcades and goading him from afar. Arcades is all about fairness and justice, and how Bolas treated his people, now controlling about half the population of Dominaria, was decidedly not very fair. Bolas flaunted his cruelty in Arcades' mind until the Elder Dragon raised his banners and led his army against the considerable force of Bolas. With the other Elder Dragons falling or hiding, Bolas easily gained influence over the remaining human clans, so Arcades had a very difficult fight ahead of him. But with the echoes of Bolas plaguing his mind, he charged into the fray and won final battle that would decide the outcome of the Elder Dragon War. The war at this point wasn't going well for Arcades Sabbath, though a brilliant tactician and commander, the Elder Dragon was losing to the sheer size and might of Bolas' armies. Worse still, the plaguing mind magic Bolas had placed on Arcades had tempered with his judgment, meaning that he was more prone to making strategic mistakes. This war was slipping away from him. However, Arcades would not so easily fall to obscurity, though it did take some help from a very unexpected source. With Arcades' depleted army again clashing with Bolas, the tides of war were forever changed as Ugin, the lost twin of Bolas, returned to his old home. Ugin was out exploring the vast secrets of the multiverse as a planeswalker, learning of new worlds, new people, and dragons, and finally realizing that Dominaria's true place within the cosmos and how insignificant they all really were. Even they, the Elder Dragons, were nothing in the grand scheme of the multiverse. Upon seeing the sorry state of Dominaria, Ugin tried to convince his siblings to end this fighting, knowing his race was on the brink of annihilation. Arcades was as rigid as ever, believing that he had the moral authority to end the cruelty of Bolas, while Bolas didn't even believe that he was the true Ugin. It had been thousands of years since Ugin's Planeswalker spark ignited, something Bolas never witnessed. To the best of his knowledge, his twin died to the poisoned arrow of the humans he subjugated. Though, after rekindling a bond, Bolas knew for certain that this was in fact Ugin. Bolas was shocked that his twin was able to unlock such a power, the ability to span the multiverse. Even the knowledge of other planes was something Bolas was ashamed to not know earlier. Regardless, Bolas welcomed his wayward brother back with open claws, eager to show Ugin the grand kingdom, nay, empire, he has forged. The lowliest of dragons, his eggmate gone, has grown to be a god king, the ruler of Dominaria. Surely, he was boasting, expecting to impress Ugin, even offering him to return to his former home and rule Dominaria together. But Ugin, he didn't share in Bolas' vision. Rather, Ugin explained just how small and insignificant he and his quote-unquote empire really were. Bolas was crushed to think that he had accomplished more than any other Elder Dragon in history, and still, there were even more mountains to climb, more heights cut off to him because he just was locked to Dominaria. He demanded Ugin show him how to planeswalk, but this wasn't possible. So Bolas turned on his brother in a fit of rage. The pair exchanged bitter words before Ugin left Bolas alone on Dominaria. There, the would-be ruler lamented on his status. Despite all that he had accomplished, still, he was the lesser Elder Dragon. Even on the brink of defeating Arcades Sabbath and utterly ruling Dominaria, this no longer interested Bolas, as there was an even grander prize out there. The multiverse. The pure rage built up, and it was enough to ignite his own latent spark. In a flash, Bolas left his home behind, just as Ugin had done, freeing Dominaria from his cruel clutches. And that is how the epic Elder Dragon War comes to an end, guys. 5 titanic dragons vying for control, with countless others of their kind dead at their feet. This conflict, it's actually more epic in concept than in the actual lore. The full scale of what must have taken place, while it far exceeds the lore provided to us in either the old Armada comics or even in Core Set 2019, which more focused on the relationship between Ugin and Bolas. But yeah, after it's all said and done, Bolas becomes a planeswalker and relinquishes control over Dominaria, meaning the war ends with the only surviving parties being Bolas, Ugin, Arcades Sabbath, Palladia Mors, Chromium, Vivictus Asmati, and the mate of Chromium, Piru, who has been confirmed to be an Elder Dragon in Modern Horizons 2 after a brief appearance in the Dakin Blackblade comics. So to wrap up this story, what happened to the survivors of the Elder Dragon War? Was their victory sweet or bitter? Let's start with the presumptive winner of the Elder Dragon War, Arcades Sabbath. Now, Arcades was very much on the losing end of this conflict. Remember, he was mere moments away from utter defeat by the hordes of Bolas, and was only spared thanks to the intervention of Ugin and Bolas basically abandoning Dominaria. Still, with Bolas gone, Arcades was the sole Elder Dragon left with a kingdom or followers to speak of. He gained control over Dominaria, and ruled as he had over his own clan with fairness and justice. It was a golden age for Dominaria as civilization sprung up and grew prosperous. Indeed, many of the great human kingdoms of Dominaria were founded in the knowledge that Arcades Sabbath shared with them. Still, as a parting gift, Bolas did plant seeds of doubt and paranoia in Arcades' mind during their final bout. These seeds would grow and grow, leading Arcades to be more strict in his dogma, eventually leaning on strict rules to govern his lands with little to no room for interpretation. His word became law, and law was followed absolutely. Arcades grew into the dictator he had originally fought so hard against, and fairness was replaced by blind obedience to authority. Arcades Sabbath's ultimate end came at the hands of the powerful planeswalker Christina of the Woods. As Arcades was summoned and bound to the will of the evil planeswalker Lezrek, Christina was able to defeat and kill the Elder Dragon, ending the complex reign of what used to be the bastion of justice among the Elder Dragons. Vivictus Asmadi, Palladia Mors, and Chromium all share similar fates, all tied together in a branching story featuring these three Elder Dragons. As Chromium waited out the Elder Dragon War masquerading as a human, he learned to respect and come to love the people who toiled beneath the Elder Dragon's wings. Rarely did he appear in his dragon form, but one time, it was as a result of being summoned by the evil planeswalker Dahada. Dahada forced Chromium and his mate, Piru, to fight Dakin Blackblade. Dakin was able to counter Chromium himself by essentially bouncing him from the battle, but managed to physically kill the Elder Dragon Piru with his cursed sword. Chromium lived, but Piru perished. Afterwards, Chromium again pretended to be a human, this time named the very, very human name of Ham the Trickery Man. Yeah. Anyway, he traveled to a town under siege by one of his kin, the aggressive and bloodthirsty Elder Dragon Palladia Mors. She had relentlessly hunted the humans in this area for years, and Chromium, having pitied the humans' plight, came to help them out. As Ham the Mage, he casted the Trickery spell on his sister, forcing her into a deep slumber she would never awake from. Together with the town, they buried Palladia Mors within the ridge, hopefully locking her away for the rest of time. And this is where we see their cousin, Vivictus Asmadi, come back into the story. After the Elder Dragon War and the rise of Planeswalkers, Vivictus was changed into a minor whelpling by the magic of Farallin, rendering him a shadow of his former strength. In order to free himself from this curse, he partnered with a human named Red Donald and posed as the man's summoned familiar. As his pet, Vivictus managed to direct Red Donald to Palladia Mors' resting spot, convincing him to dig her up and wake the Elder Dragon from her slumber. Palladia, now restored, reversed this transmutation magic, and in turn, restored Vivictus Asmadi to his former glory. Together, the two Elder Dragons went on a rampage, getting revenge on the humanoid races who dared stand against them. They managed to form an army of beasts, lesser dragons, and humans who worshipped their ferocity, and threatened to take the weakened Dominaria by force, invoking feelings of yet another emerging Elder Dragon War. Chromium, fearing the horrors that could follow from their rise to power, was able to face Vivictus Asmadi in combat. Chromium was not a physically strong Elder Dragon, though like others of his kind, was apt in mental assault. Chromium managed to convince Vivictus that Palladia Mors planned to betray him once he had control over Dominaria, killing him and securing her own personal rule. The deceit was enough for Vivictus to turn on Palladia, forcing Palladia to kill her own savior. As the battle between Palladia and her armies raged against Chromium, the benevolent dragon was able to put Palladia Mors under his trickery spell once again, repeating history by placing her beneath the ground, where by all accounts Palladia Mors still rests today. As for Chromium's ultimate fate, well, he lasted a bit longer until the crisis of the 12 shards threatened to lock Dominaria in its own pocket plane within the multiverse. A meeting was called of the most powerful beings on Dominaria to help with the conflict, and the final Elder Dragon of the plane, Chromium, was invited as well. The discussions, however, went south as a few evil planeswalkers started fighting, hoping to kill another planeswalker and using their loose spark to help free them all from this shard. The fight didn't result in any dead planeswalkers, but Chromium was sadly killed in the crossfire. As a result, the Elder Dragon's death seemed to have enough power stored to help people get off of Dominaria. But regardless, the final Elder Dragon of Dominaria was dead. This, of course, leads us to our final surviving Elder Dragons known to be active in the story, Ugin and Nicol Bolas. This is a story we've talked a lot about on this channel, and I think we can just wrap this up by saying Nicol Bolas ended up losing his Planeswalker Spark in a bid to gain godlike powers. He was stopped by hero Planeswalkers aided by his twin brother Ugin. Forever, these two Elder Dragon Planeswalkers are tied, and as such, Ugin has delegated himself as the jailer of Bolas until his twin has died of old age. Being an Elder Dragon, that's potentially a very, very long time. So, unless something happens in the story and maybe Bolas breaks free of his prison, we won't be hearing from these two for quite a while outside of maybe a few small cameos here and there. So who's the ultimate winner of the Elder Dragon War? Clearly no one, but let's just work this out for fun to see if we can find an objective winner here. We only know of 3 true Elder Dragons still alive. Palladia Mors, who's trapped sleeping under a bunch of rocks, who I guess is possibly able to join in the lore again at some point, with Ugin and Bolas both tied into a prison that should last, about a few millennia or so. So really, shockingly, Palladia Mors is the most likely to again be prominent in the story. We just gotta wake her up first. Thus, she's the ultimate winner of the Elder Dragon War. Shockingly enough. Anyway guys, that's everything I have to share with you on the epic story that was the Elder Dragon War, the major players, and the ultimate fates of the Elder Dragons in Magic the Gathering story. Please let me know your own thoughts on the Elder Dragon War in the comment section below. If you want to support this channel and other SA topics, please consider leaving this video a like, subscribing with a topic that you'd like to see covered, taking that notification bell, and of course sharing this video with your friends or online with Reddit. It all goes a very long way in supporting the Ether Hub, guys. Either way, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, see ya!